After the age of 60, many things change gradually. Your energy may dip a little, your sleep becomes lighter, and your joints may speak up more often. But there's one change that often goes unnoticed until it becomes a real problem. And that's muscle loss. You might think muscle loss is just a natural part of aging. And while that's partly true, the full story is a bit more complex. Science now tells us that the gradual decline in muscle isn't just about the number of candles on your birthday cake. It's more about the small things we do, or don't do, every day. Every year after age 60, we can lose around 1 to 2% of our muscle mass. That may sound like a small number. But over 5 or 10 years, that loss becomes very real. It shows up as feeling weaker when standing up from a chair, walking slower without realizing it, or needing more support going upstairs. What's worse is that many people don't even notice it's happening until they fall, or until something simple like carrying groceries feels unusually hard. But here's the hopeful part. Much of that muscle loss can be slowed down, and in many cases, prevented. Not by lifting heavy weights at the gym, or by following a trendy diet plan, but simply by becoming aware of a few common habits that quietly chip away at our muscle strength, day after day. In this video, we'll walk through 5 daily habits that most people overlook, yet they may be silently causing you to lose muscle faster than you think. These are not dramatic or obvious habits. In fact, they're usually part of everyday life. That's why they're so powerful. Because what we do regularly, almost automatically, shapes the way our body ages. If you care about staying strong, independent, and active as you grow older, this conversation is for you. And if you find this video helpful, I invite you to click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and consider sharing it with someone you care about. You never know how much a small piece of information can change someone's future. Let's start with a habit that's often overlooked, but plays a much bigger role than you might think. Most people don't think of the food they eat as something that affects their muscles. We usually associate food with energy, weight, or blood pressure. But not many people over 60 realize that their daily food choices can either build muscle or slowly break it down. One of the most overlooked habits when it comes to muscle health is eating too many ultra-processed foods. These are foods that come in boxes, bags, or plastic trays. They're often quick, convenient, and tasty. Frozen meals, packaged snacks, sugary cereals, flavored yogurts, processed meats, and even many diet foods fall into this category. If it has a long ingredient list with names you can't pronounce, it's likely ultra-processed. Now here's the surprising part. Studies in recent years have found a strong connection between a diet high in ultra-processed foods and the loss of muscle mass and function. In 2023, researchers published findings in the Lancet Healthy Longevity journal showing that older adults who regularly consumed more than 3 servings of ultra-processed foods per day had significantly lower hand grip, strength, and slower walking speeds compared to those who ate less. These are 2 key indicators of muscle health and overall physical function in aging. But what's the mechanism behind this? First, ultra-processed foods tend to be very low in high-quality protein. You may be eating enough total calories, but not enough of the right kind of protein that stimulates muscle repair and growth. Second, many of these foods are high in refined sugars, trans fats, and additives that promote low-grade, chronic inflammation in the body. And chronic inflammation has been shown to interfere with muscle protein synthesis, the process your body uses to build new muscle tissue. Third, these foods often lack important micronutrients that support muscle health, like magnesium, potassium, and certain B vitamins. When your diet is filled with foods that are high in calories but low in nutrition, your muscles don't get what they need to maintain their structure and strength. Here's something I've seen often with older adults. They may not be eating more junk food than before, but they're cooking less. And as a result, they end up relying more on convenience foods. It's understandable. Cooking for 1 or 2 people can feel like too much effort. Grocery shopping may be tiring. And let's face it, some processed foods are made to taste good and require zero preparation. But over time, the cost to your muscle health adds up. Now, I'm not saying you need to cook 3 fresh meals a day. That's not realistic for everyone. But being mindful of how often ultra-processed foods appear on your plate can make a real difference. Even reducing your intake by just 1 or 2 items a day and replacing them with something whole and minimally processed can help your muscles stay stronger. For example, instead of a frozen microwave dinner, you might try a bowl of lentil soup with a slice of whole grain bread. Instead of chips, maybe a small handful of roasted nuts or a few carrot sticks with hummus. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. Your muscles are constantly being broken down and rebuilt, even in your 60s, 70s, and beyond. But they need the right building blocks to do that well. What I often tell patients is this: every bite you take either feeds your muscles or feeds inflammation. The choice isn't always obvious, but it matters more than you think. So, the first silent habit that may be costing you muscle strength is a diet too rich in ultra-processed foods. The fix doesn't have to be complicated. Just aim to eat real food, foods that come from the ground, from the sea, or from animals, and that don't need a factory to be edible. Coming up next is another daily behavior that often slips under the radar, but plays a major role in how your muscles function from day to day. It might seem surprising, but one of the most common deficiencies among older adults in the US is vitamin D. And not just a little low, some people have levels that are far below what their muscles and bones need to function well. What's even more surprising is that this can happen even in places with plenty of sunshine. So why is this happening? As we get older, we tend to spend more time indoors. Retired life often means less time outside. The skin also becomes less efficient at producing vitamin D from sunlight. Add in sunscreen, long sleeves, and hats, which are all smart for skin protection, and you end up with very little sun exposure overall. And very often, diets alone don't provide enough vitamin D to make up the difference. Vitamin D is well known for helping your body absorb calcium and support bone health. But fewer people know how critical it is for maintaining muscle strength, especially after 60. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism in 2022 showed that older adults with low vitamin D levels had significantly lower muscle function, slower walking speed, and a higher risk of falls. What makes this so important is that the relationship between vitamin D and muscle isn't just about strength, it's also about how your muscles communicate with your nervous system. Vitamin D receptors are present in muscle cells, and they play a role in keeping those cells responsive and coordinated. Without enough vitamin D, your muscles may feel weaker, slower, and less stable. That's not just about losing strength, it's also about losing confidence in your balance and movement. Many people I've spoken with tell me, "But I walk outside every day." And that's great. But sunlight exposure needs to reach uncovered skin, typically arms and legs, and for a long enough time to be effective. For many older adults, even 15 minutes may not be enough, depending on the time of day, the season, and skin tone. The good news is, this is one of the easiest things to check. A simple blood test from your doctor can show your current vitamin D level. In most cases, levels below 30 nanograms per milliliter are considered insufficient for muscle health. If your levels are low, your healthcare provider may recommend a supplement. Vitamin D3 is typically more effective than D2, and for many older adults, a daily dose of 1,000 to 2,000 IU is both safe and beneficial, but this should always be discussed with your provider. In my experience, patients who correct low vitamin D levels often notice small but meaningful improvements, feeling steadier on their feet, less fatigued, and more able to perform daily tasks without strain. It doesn't happen overnight, but with time, muscles respond better when they're supported by the nutrients they need. It's also important to remember that vitamin D doesn't work alone. It works together with calcium, magnesium, and physical activity to support strong muscles and bones. So even if you take a supplement, continuing to move, eat well, and stretch regularly is still essential. This might seem like a small detail in the bigger picture of aging, but keeping your vitamin D levels in a healthy range is one of the simplest, most cost-effective things you can do to support muscle function and prevent the kind of frailty that sneaks up on so many people. So if you've been feeling more tired, less steady, or weaker than usual, and you're not sure why, it might be worth asking your doctor to check your vitamin D level. It's a small step, but one that could make a meaningful difference in how you move and feel each day. Up next, we'll talk about another quiet habit that often goes unnoticed, yet it has a surprisingly strong impact on how well your muscles perform. You might not think of hydration as something that affects your muscles, but the truth is, water plays a critical role in keeping your body strong, especially as you age. And yet, many older adults are walking around each day in a state of mild dehydration, without even realizing it. It doesn't take much. As we get older, our sense of thirst becomes less reliable. The body doesn't signal its need for water as clearly as it once did. So, many people over 60 simply don't feel thirsty the way they used to. Add to that the fact that some people are limiting fluid intake to avoid trips to the bathroom at night or because of bladder issues, and it's easy to see how dehydration becomes a daily issue. But what does that have to do with muscle? Well, muscle tissue is made up of about 75% water. That means even a small drop in hydration can affect how muscles function. When your body is even mildly dehydrated, your muscles become more prone to cramping, fatigue, and stiffness. Recovery after exercise becomes slower. Muscle protein synthesis, the process that helps your body repair and build muscle, is also compromised. There's research backing this up. A study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology found that dehydration as little as 2% of body weight can impair muscular strength and performance. And another study in older adults showed that chronic dehydration is associated with lower muscle mass and poorer physical function over time. So this isn't just about feeling a little off, it's about long-term loss of strength. Hydration also supports circulation, which delivers nutrients and oxygen to muscle tissue. Without enough water, blood volume drops slightly, making it harder for your muscles to get the nutrients they need to stay strong. You might not feel it all at once, but over weeks and months, this slowly chips away at your ability to move with confidence. And here's something that surprises many of my older patients: by the time you feel thirsty, you're already slightly dehydrated. That dry mouth, that sluggish feeling? Those are signs you've waited too long. So how much water should you be drinking? While recommendations vary, a good rule of thumb for older adults is to aim for around 1.7 liters per day, or roughly 6 to 7 cups of fluids. That doesn't have to be just plain water. Herbal teas, broth-based soups, and water-rich fruits like melon and cucumber can all count. The key is consistency. Sipping small amounts throughout the day is better than trying to chug a large glass all at once. Also, if you're taking medications, especially diuretics for blood pressure or heart issues, your fluid needs may be higher. Always talk to your doctor, especially if you've been told to limit fluids for health reasons. Now, I'm not saying you have to carry around a water bottle every moment. But finding gentle, easy ways to increase hydration, like having a glass of water when you wake up, or keeping a mug nearby while you read or watch TV, can make a real difference over time. I've seen older adults who started drinking just a little more water each day and found that they moved more easily, experienced fewer cramps, and even felt more mentally alert. That's because hydration doesn't just affect your muscles, it supports your joints, your energy, your digestion, and even your brain. And when your body feels better, you're more likely to keep moving, stay active, and maintain the strength and independence that matters so much after 60. In a world full of complicated health advice, drinking enough water might seem too simple to matter. But in my opinion, that's exactly the kind of habit that gets overlooked, and exactly the kind we should be paying attention to. Coming up next, we'll explore another daily habit that quietly undermines your muscles, even if you think you're eating well. It may sound surprising, but not eating enough fiber each day can quietly work against your muscles over time. When most people hear the word fiber, they think of digestion, regularity, maybe lowering cholesterol. But very few connect it to muscle health. And yet, fiber affects much more than your gut. It influences inflammation, nutrient absorption, and the health of your gut microbiome, which is deeply connected to your ability to maintain strength as you age. Let me explain. Fiber is the part of plant foods that our bodies can't digest. It moves through the gut, feeding the trillions of microbes that live in your intestines. These microbes, often called the gut microbiome, help break down food, produce vitamins like B12 and K2, and most importantly, they create short-chain fatty acids. These substances help lower chronic inflammation and improve the body's response to insulin. Why is this important for muscle? Because chronic, low-grade inflammation, the kind that builds up silently as we age, interferes with the way our muscles repair and rebuild themselves. A study published in the journal Nutrients showed that people over 60 with higher levels of inflammation markers had significantly lower muscle mass and strength. Another paper from the Journal of Gerontology found that older adults with a more diverse and balanced gut microbiome had better physical function and walking speed. In simpler terms, the healthier your gut, the better your muscles respond when you eat protein or exercise. And what keeps your gut healthy? Fiber. But here's the issue. In the US, most adults over 60 eat far less fiber than recommended. The current guideline suggests about 25 to 30 grams of fiber daily, but many older Americans barely reach 15. Processed foods, white bread, sweetened cereals, and a diet low in vegetables and legumes all contribute to this fiber gap. Now, I want to be clear, adding fiber doesn't mean cutting out everything you enjoy. It just means making small, thoughtful changes. Adding a handful of berries to breakfast, choosing whole grain toast instead of white, or tossing a few lentils into soup can make a meaningful difference over time. Some of my patients were surprised to find that when they improved their fiber intake, they not only felt less bloated and more regular, but they also experienced steadier energy and fewer joint aches. These are signs that systemic inflammation may be calming down, and that can have ripple effects on your muscle maintenance. Of course, increasing fiber too quickly can cause gas or discomfort, especially if your body isn't used to it. That's why I always recommend going slowly, increasing your intake over a week or two, and drinking more water to help the fiber move through your system. Remember, maintaining muscle after 60 isn't just about protein and weights, it's about your entire internal environment working in harmony. A gut that's out of balance will fight against your efforts, no matter how well you eat or how often you walk. So the next time you plan a meal, ask yourself, is there anything here that feeds not just me, but my gut too? Taking care of your microbiome is one of the most underrated ways to protect your strength, independence, and well-being as you age. Coming up next, we'll look at a habit that may seem positive on the surface, but when done too often, can slowly undermine your muscles and your health. There's one more habit that often hides in plain sight. It's usually praised, even encouraged, especially among older adults trying to be healthier. But when taken too far, it can silently backfire. I'm talking about over-restricting your calories. Many people in their 60s or older start cutting back on how much they eat. Sometimes it's intentional, maybe you're trying to manage your weight, reduce blood sugar, or follow advice about eating lighter. Other times, appetite simply decreases with age. Food doesn't taste the same, or maybe digestion isn't as smooth as before. All of that can lead to a slow and quiet drop in calorie intake over time. Now, a mild calorie deficit isn't necessarily harmful. But when it becomes chronic, when your body is constantly running on less fuel than it needs, the consequences start to show, especially in your muscles. Muscle is metabolically expensive. Your body has to work hard to maintain it. So if calories are scarce, one of the first things it gives up is lean mass. This isn't just theory. Studies from research groups in Europe and the US have found that older adults who eat fewer calories consistently show lower muscle mass and strength, even if their protein intake is adequate. That's because your body needs enough total energy to make use of the protein you eat. Without enough energy, your muscles simply don't rebuild well. It's a bit like trying to build a house. Protein is the bricks. But calories? Calories are the workers. If you've got all the bricks in the world but no one to lay them, the house won't get built. I've seen this firsthand with many older patients who unknowingly slipped into a low-calorie routine. They started losing weight. At first it seemed like a good thing. But then came the fatigue, the loss of strength, the trouble getting up from chairs or climbing stairs. When we checked their body composition, much of the weight loss had come from muscle, not fat. It was a wake-up call. So how do you know if you're not eating enough? If you've unintentionally lost more than 5% of your body weight over the past 6 to 12 months, that's a red flag. Also, if you feel tired during the day, struggle to complete activities that used to be easy, or notice that your clothes fit looser around the shoulders or thighs, those are all subtle signs that your body might be underfueled. It's also worth looking at your meals. If you find yourself skipping breakfast regularly, eating just a small salad for lunch, or relying heavily on snacks like crackers or fruit alone, you may be getting far fewer calories than your body needs to support your muscle tissue. That doesn't mean you have to eat large meals or overindulge. It simply means being intentional. Focus on nutrient-rich meals that combine high-quality protein, healthy fats, complex carbohydrates, and fiber. Meals that fuel you, not just fill you. A bowl of oatmeal with nuts and berries in the morning, a hearty bean soup with whole grain toast at lunch, or a salmon and quinoa dinner, these are satisfying, balanced options that provide both energy and nutrients to protect your muscles. And just like we don't want to overeat, we also don't want to undernourish ourselves. It's about balance. If you're unsure where you stand, consider tracking your food intake for a few days using a simple app or a notebook. You might be surprised at how little you're actually eating, especially if you've lost your sense of hunger or gotten into the habit of eating light for years. I truly believe that maintaining a healthy muscle mass is one of the most powerful things you can do to stay strong, independent, and vibrant in your later years. And that requires eating enough, not too much, not too little, but enough to support the work your body is doing every day. In closing, let's take a step back and remember why this matters. Muscle loss after 60 isn't just about appearance or fitness. It's about quality of life. It's about being able to walk with confidence, carry groceries, lift your grandchildren, and live without fear of falls or frailty. Every daily habit, the way you sleep, eat, move, or even think, can quietly tip the scale toward strength or weakness. But the beauty is, it's never too late. These habits can be unlearned. New, better ones can be built. And with the right mindset, the right knowledge, and a little bit of consistency, you can protect your muscle health well into your 70s, 80s, and beyond. So if you found value in this video, I invite you to like, subscribe, and share it with someone you care about. Because muscle matters, and the sooner we act, the stronger our future becomes. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Stay strong, stay curious, and take good care of yourself.